Oh, that's okay, no problem. So I will just restart my introduction. There was a problem of audio apparently. So like, welcome back everyone. That's what I was saying, and we are starting the second part of our session of our break session. So like, it's a Meet the PI session, and we are welcoming Erika van der Wal, professor from the University of Lausanne, Switzerland. And what I was telling actually is that I will not make a too long introduction because you are doing a plenary in less than 2 hours. So we will have the occasion to introduce you more regarding your career at this moment. And so today we will talk actually during this Meet the PI about this career. And I like to, I mean, we like to start this kind of session by asking what is the genesis of your love for science, how your love for research came in your life. The floor is yours. You can explain us.
Yes, so I guess I'm a bit of the weird one out if we think of this, because for me it was really a little girl dream to live with monkeys and understand them. Apparently, I was 3, 4 years old, and when my parents would ask me what I want to do, I would always say I want to understand monkeys and be with monkeys. I have no clue where where it comes from, but since I can remember, I would always like love books about primates and any like newspaper article and find some documentaries or whatever on the topic. Then growing up, I realized in high school that I was really scientific, that I really like science. But then I was thinking that primatologist wasn't a real work and potentially like just so impossible to reach that I should think of alternatives. So I really always loved to travel. So I was also very interested in humanitarian medicine, and so I really hesitated. Like, should I study biology or medicine? And I took a gap year after high school, traveled to India and volunteered there with a doctor, and I loved it there. But then I also volunteered at the Orangutan Foundation in Borneo, and seeing those biologists paid to follow orang from dawn to dusk, I was like, wow, I should try it, because if I don't try, I will regret. So then I came back and started my studies in biology.
So I guess we can assume that you do not regret to not have choose medicine.
Yes, I do not regret. Still something, sometimes I'm like, yeah, academia is not the easiest path, and yeah, I still don't have a permanent position, and I'm not that young anymore, and I have a family, and I want to stay where I am. So all this, of course, is in the balance. But yeah, I will never regret what I've done up to now, and even if I end up in a different field at the end, I will have learned a lot about many things, and I will have done my like what I was passionate about for as long as I could. So yeah, this is I think really like a luxury that for all these last 15 years I could just work on the questions that I was interested in, and select the people I wanted to work with, and like I set up my own field site already 13 years ago. So yeah, I really as my husband would say, my first baby is is the project, but so it's taking a lot of time, but yeah, it's so rewarding to really be able to watch the animals you're passionate about, and always have more question on them 1 year to the next.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, it's good. Like, you give me a perfect transition in the sense that you talk a lot about the limit also of research that you are meeting. I know that in the context of your research, you are doing a lot of traveling. You have to go in South Africa in order to make some field experiments. And I was wondering, like, how you are making the balance between work, between life. Is it something that you put a lot of effort on? It'd be interesting to hear from you this perspective.
Yeah, so during my master, PhD, and the first 3 years of my postdoc, I spent more time in South Africa than back in Europe. So I was in Switzerland for my master and PhD, then in Scotland for my first postdoc. but I was most of the time just in the in the field. So in total during this period, I spent over 5 years, like always in the field. And then once moving back to Switzerland after my postdoc in Scotland with a group leader grant, then I had, of course, to do more things also back in Switzerland. And then I also started the family. So then it was more going for sessions of about 3 months to the field, and then slowly reducing. And now I try to go twice a year for like between 2 weeks and 6 weeks session, depending if I go on my own or if I go with the family. So for this, South Africa is really nice, is that we are in an area without malaria, and we also have no vaccinations needed. So I could, like, my son had his first birthday at the field site, so it is a place that I can also go with the family, which makes it easier. But of course, like, at the moment, I cannot conduct experiments on my own or even collect focal data, because we work on a population of 7 group, over 250 monkeys, and we all ID them facially. And so at the start of the project, I knew everyone of the population. Now I know the old ones, and because the other ones change so rapidly. And so I really rely on a great team of a local manager and field assistant for most of the baseline data collection. Then we also have international volunteers and, of course, master, PhD, postdoc joining the field site. So yeah, it's a different step in my career, and I hope at some point I'll get a sabbatical and be able to also spend again enough time that I can actively collect data and spend more time in the field. But I guess there is a time for everything, and yeah, I'm very happy that the project can carry on, and for this I need to publish and to find grants, and so I have more a job on the computer, but I really feel the need of going there regularly, because after some point, just with my computer and with data or videos, like I still miss it a lot, and every time when I go there, I get back full of good energy, like seeing all those young that are like living the time of their life. They don't know if they were going to carry on after in research, but being in this amazing reserve with, okay, we're following the vervets, but there are giraffes, there are elephants, and you can see also some nice predators if you're lucky, and just having no sound pollution, no light pollution at night, like you see the stars. So we are like, it's really, I guess, the dream of every zoologist who who wanted to be feeling in the wild. It's really the place there. So I'm very happy that I can give this opportunity to many young people to experience this. And every time I go, I just get all their good energy and then understand why I have to get those grants and carry out my career.
But once again, a perfect transition. Thank you, because you talk about the grants. So like you say that right now you searching for position. I mean, you don't have a position, and I guess that for many of us, eventually it's something that we will meet too. So I think it's quite interesting to have your feedback, your perspective about this, like how you manage to continue to run your research, to find funding, to find in order to let's say stay independent, not be a postdoc forever, for instance, but until being able to get a position.
Yeah, so I think here again, maybe my path wasn't the usual one. So already for my master's, so I was at the University of Neuchâtel in Switzerland, and the person in charge of the ecoetology lab is Redwan Bshari, working on the cooperation mainly in fishes. And I went with him on an internship in the Red Sea. I love diving, I love snorkeling, I looked at grouper and moray eels, cooperative hunting. It was amazing. And then he saw that he had convinced me to work on fish for my master project, and I was like, no, I want to do something on primates. and then luckily he had connection with primatologists, and then found me an internships on the on the vervet monkey. So I discovered the species already during my master and realized they were really great for field experiments. And the topic I really got passionate about during my master studies was social learning and origin of human culture. And so then I was lucky that after my master went well, it was on more on cooperation on the vervets. But then I was offered to stay as a PhD student in the group, but then really on my own, so I could really design my questions and how I wanted to do my PhD. So I think I had a lot of chance to develop my own line of research very early on. And then towards the end, with Red One, we realized that vervets were really an ideal species to start a long-term, large field site. So in primatology, we know a lot about individual differences and population differences, but the unit that was missing was group differences. And so where I did my PhD was a reserve of the government in South Africa. So we were very constrained by South African long administration time to get permits and access to the monkeys, and we're not allowed to capture them or to do too many experiments. And so it wasn't the ideal place to start this. But then we had the example of other projects like the Meerkat project in South Africa that was already running for over 10 years at that time. That was on private land. So we're like, okay, we will need to, if we want to carry on the vervets, we should start in another population on private land. And then with this vision, we managed to convince Karel van Schreik in Zurich and Andy Whiten in Scotland to write a Synergia grant from the Swiss National Science Foundation. And we got it on the first rounds, and it was on the vervets, and none of the PIs had worked directly on the vervets themselves before. So I was also very lucky that they didn't try to take it like to themselves and just say I was just the coordinator at the start and now they're gonna just carry on without me. But that as soon as I was senior enough, so in 2015, then I became the director of the field site and had my own grants to pay most of it. So I think one advice for the grants and for your research, I always just followed what I had my main interest in. And sometimes people would tell me, oh, to be strategic, you should change species or you should focus on another question. For me, it was, I like if I'm interested in something and I see the potential there, like even if it doesn't work with that funding agency, I'll try somewhere else. And then the exact same proposal had been rejected for the Ambizione, the group leader grant in Switzerland, but got accepted by the Bronco Weiss Fellowship, which is a worldwide grant, a lot more competitive than the Swiss one I had applied. So you never know. So as I tell the people in my group, so you have to play the lottery to have the chance to win, and the criteria are not very straightforward, and depending who is reviewing your application and who are the others that applied and what the funding agency is really looking for. And it's not because your ideas are not good. Of course, if you get good reviewer comments, incorporate them in the next version. but I still think that to do good research, you really need to be passionate about what you're doing and really wanting to answer that question, and not just bend yourself too much to be more sexy on the market.
Yeah, so I guess the take-home message would be like be persistent and
yes.
just go with your idea.
And every older PI will have different advice for you anyway if you ask. So go with what you think is right.
Yeah, but I think your perspective is interesting in the sense that, of course, according to the generation we are asking the question, it will not be the same answer because we are not facing the same difficulties. In the sense that, several years ago, it was easier to get a position than now. So that's why your perspective is important and interesting, because it kind of helps us to understand how you can keep going even if you are not finding an actual position. Because I think also for new generation, maybe some people could think that the only way to exist in science is to have a position like a a professor position somewhere or a research position somewhere. But I think it's important to understand that you can continue during several years. Doesn't mean that you are not a part of research, just like you have to be persistent, as you say.
Yeah, and I think it depends also on what are your where are your priorities. So for me, like my life-work balance is very important, and so as a primatologist, I would have a lot more chance to get a position in the US, for example, or in the UK. But then now after Brexit for the UK, like having the money to run my field site would be very, very hard. So having a permanent position without being sure that I will carry on my project, I don't really fancy this. And then moving the whole family for then me not being happy because I cannot do what I want to do would be also, I think, not very, very fair. So I'm still trying it here. Maybe ask me to come back in 2 years, and once my ERC is finished, and then
actually,
I will tell you if I
it will
took the
be
good decision or not, not to jump on any open position. But,
maybe you have a concept here. Maybe we should do that. Re-invite each
People.
person from Meet the PI and just ask exactly the same question. Will be actually interesting. You say also at the beginning how happy you were that you managed to create a solid network of people that you like to work with. And it's something that could be interesting for people to understand, like, for instance, what for you are your strategy when it's coming to create collaboration, like how you will contact people, like in what context, these kind of things.
Yeah, so I think here I've been pretty lucky that that my PhD supervisor had a good network that he introduced me to, and sort of who would be good to have to start the field site. And then after this, I think it's really opportunities, meeting people at conference or workshop, or reading some people paper and think, oh, I should try to adapt this, or but then I quite early have been also very lucky to have been contacted by others interested in doing research at my field site, because it's still not often that you have such a large sample, but especially on a species that you can manipulate in the wild. So for primates, it's very rare that you can capture and do experiments involving food. So I was quite lucky to have people coming, and most of them work really well. And then, if it doesn't, I feel life is too short to be working with people you don't enjoy working with. So then I think it's better to stop it early than to drag it. Like I really feel very lucky with the job that I have, and most of the time I don't realize that I'm working, and I'm very happy to be discussing with the people involved in the project. And if it doesn't work, then I will find others with whom to collaborate.
Yeah, that's nice. So there is AB who has a question, so maybe you can.
I was just wondering, because you talk about the field site quite a bit, right? And I guess it's sort of like a central part of your research. So in some sense, you don't need to just find money to do your research. You also need to find money to keep the field site running, and for its maintenance, and ensure that it's like stocked and stuff. I think two questions I had. One is, was there ever a situation where you had money for research but not for the field site, or there was some uncertainty about whether the field site would continue, and then you were thinking about alternatives or how to go about dealing with that situation? And the second question related to that is, you mentioned that earlier you were working in a natural reserve, and then it was much harder because of the bureaucracy and stuff. But so how does having a field site like yours then make it easier? Because I guess you still have to deal with bureaucracy at some point, but maybe not to the same extent. But I don't know, how much different is it that you have so much control over the field?
Yeah, so for the first question, so we first got this very big Swiss Synergia grant, and we could start everything very fancy for the first 3 years of the project. And then we applied to other grants and were not successful. And it was such a shame because the first 3 years were mainly habituating the monkeys to our present and having all the protocols set up for the baseline data collection and running some first experiment that worked really well, like the food coloring one that I will explain later on. But then like the Swiss National Science Foundation was like, oh, we gave you already money for 3 years. Now we want to pay for other stuff. But then we were very lucky as we were on private land, and the landowner was very happy to have us on site. So it was reserve use for hunting initially. And the owner wanted to move towards ecotourism, but didn't know how to do it. So already renting part of his land for research where no hunting would take place was the first step in that direction. And so he reduced the rent for over a year. And as soon as we got the next funding, we paid him back and paid a higher rent. But yeah, no, without his support, it would have been really tough at the start of the project. And then for some stuff like the cars, there it was also personal investment. So I bought a car, Redram Shari bought another car, a PhD student that was staying long also bought one, and then we were paying back the kilometers, so everyone got his money back, but it was like an investment. There are some things that are very hard to pay for. And then during COVID, of course, that was a big worry. What like was the field site going to close down? There were 21 people on site when the borders were going to close in South Africa. I had actually a flight booked on the Sunday before everything shut down on the Monday in Switzerland. And so I really wanted to go to sort out with the team who was going, leaving and stuff, but the university, as I bought the ticket through them, they didn't allow me to leave because I was teaching and they didn't want me to not be able to teach. I could have done it remotely from there and I would have had a 10,000 hectare garden instead of a flat in Geneva, but this wasn't their problem. And so then 8 stayed, out of the 21, 8 people decided to stay. So I had South African manager. I always have one manager at least that is South African. And then also his wife was on site and they had no other way, nowhere else to go. So they were like, we're gonna anyway stay here. And I was very happy because then even if they couldn't maybe collect data, at least they could check that the poaching wasn't increasing too much and that still do a little bit of follow on the monkeys. But then I had other master, PhD and field assistant that were like, okay, but I rented my flat away, I have nowhere to go, or I have to go back to my parents, but I really don't want to. Is it possible to stay? And then so we let them free to decide to stay or to go. And so yeah, it ended up with 8 of them staying. And actually, like I had 2 PhD students at that point, and one stayed and one came back. And the one that came back after was very frustrated because for 6 months, the border stayed closed. And then she was really stressing out, not being able to do her experiments and stuff. And the one that decided to stay was so happy that she stayed, because first she thought it was going to be for a few weeks or max a month, but she was really the end of her PhD and being not able to go back to the field site. So yeah, this is, I guess, an extra level of problems compared to people having their lab right next to where they live, is all those decisions with the distance and still trying to support the team, even if I couldn't be there myself. But then as soon as the border reopened in October, I flew back down with a master's student that had been waiting for a few months, and also it came. And then for your second question about changing to private land, so it changes a lot for the vervet monkeys in South Africa. So vervets are considered pest species, and so on private land you're allowed to kill them. So of course we don't want to kill them, but it means that from like the animal law and the authorities of the province, we don't need to ask them any permit to do anything on the monkeys, as long as the owner agrees that we that we are doing this. So of course we work on behavior, so we want them to stay well and to do everything with as much ethical consideration as possible, but we're still allowed to do some captures, fit loggers and stuff that in most of the game reserve of the government, it wouldn't be possible, or a lot more complicated to get permission to do.
So like you said at the beginning that you had the chance, now that you cannot always go to the field because of this nice bureaucracy that is research sometimes, that you have the chance to be helped by many students. And I wanted to ask you things regarding this, like how much of a role do you think the PI should have in the daily life of the lab? And more particularly in your case, how do you apply this, since sometimes there is a lot of distance between your students and you?
Yeah, so since I'm a group leader, I try to have another supervisor for all the master students and myself that is really on site. So either a PhD or a postdoc, because at the master student level, they still need a lot more of guidance, and to have someone daily there. Sometime with some project that's not possible, but then I now have also, I have 2 on-site manager now, one like field manager more for security and all the logistic, and one scientific manager. So this, my scientific manager is Nokubonga, a Zulu woman from the area who joined us just after COVID. So just after COVID, I was lucky to finally be able to hire a local field assistant. Up to then, like the fundings all said, oh, just the manager, and the rest shouldn't be local staff that have contracts and stuff. And then I was thanks to COVID, I was able to have 4 position for local field assistant. And so this, I think it's really helping also because it means that I have a team of more like knowledgeable researcher on site that really know how to do everything with the monkeys, and that can make all the like the inter-observer tests and pass the identification test, and also are there on a daily basis to answer questions on how to do some of the things. So yeah, I'm now more there to at the conception of the project with my PhDs and postdocs, and then also, of course, throughout the project, if it's needed to have meetings and questions, and I'll try to overlap with them, the one going to the field at least once, and then once they're back analyzing and for the writing, then of course I'll be present as much as needed. Okay. And as I can, depending on the.
And actually, over the years, like, is there anything that you discovered and that you would maybe not have expected or not think of that is really important, even crucial for the welfare of students in a laboratory? Because like sometimes, until the moment we are meeting a situation, we don't know that we can meet a situation.
So I think for me, having a diverse research group is something that I feel really important. So primatology somehow seems to be attracting more women than men. So for example, during my PhD, at some point I had 6 women master students at the same time, and being only women together, like it wasn't at all the same as when you have a mixed group, but mixed can be of mixed gender, but also now having this mixed team with at least 4 or 5 South African, I think it's really nice, not being just this bunch of internationals doing things in a foreign country. And I think for the people coming, it's really nice that they can get to know more about South Africa and South African way of living and stuff, with having these knowledgeable people. So I think this is really something I really now actively look for when recruiting people, is to have a good balance of really diversity, and also trying to be very inclusive for people with different health issues. So South Africa is a very, as I said, easy place to travel with, and I had often people asking me that they wanted to try field work, that they weren't sure if they could do it or not, and yeah, our field site compared to what I had experienced, for example, in Borneo was a very easy field site, and we live in very good condition. And it's also South Africa with all the medical support, but also a bit more luxurious life than most other places, at least for primatology. And so, yeah, I really like to give this chance. And then, of course, sometimes it doesn't work, but it's really still a very little minority of people that would live before.
Yeah, so if you would have to give one advice, it would be really to go for a diverse group of people with different opinion, just in order to not.
Yeah, and I think things become a lot more creative if you have people from different backgrounds also. So with primatology, we also attract people from psychology, sometimes from neuroscience, sometimes really more behavioral ecologists. And I think this is also really interesting to be able to discuss the same research topic, but with people of different background. Myself, so I did all my studies in biology and specialized in behavioral ecology, but then moved to a school of psychology and neuroscience in Scotland, because that's where Andy Whiten was based. And then I moved to anthropology in Zurich as a group leader first, before moving back to Lausanne in the Department of Ecology and Evolution. And I think moving to those, even if I stayed on the same research topic myself, being stimulated by seminars of people of different background, I think was something that I liked a lot. And then through my this Bronco Weiss fellowship I mentioned before, this is for postdoc in any field of science. So there was some in philosophy of science or history of science also, and then some in physics. And so every year we would have this symposium. And the first time going there was like, why do we have to go there for 3 days? Like, no one knows my field. There was one doing something in behavioral ecology only. And I was like, no one will know what I'm talking about and stuff. But actually we're all at the same career stage. And then everyone really made the effort to present the research in a way to be understood by others. And actually it was really enriching. And from this, then I got a collaborative grant with someone from robotics at the ETH in Switzerland. It was a lot of fun to bring his huge 4-leg robot to interact with the monkeys. And yeah, without this interdisciplinary thing, I would never have thought that this would be an option, because robots are very fun, but it's very expensive. And when you struggle already to maintain the field site, then you don't think that you're gonna be able to have this fancy technology joining.
Yeah, but actually, like about this, and still about the student, because like, I mean, I guess we have a lot of students that are at the beginning of their career that are watching us right now. And maybe sometimes they are wondering where they should skill themselves. With experience right now and seeing the current situation in research, what for you would be the golden skill, if we can call it like this, for a student to kind of open a maximum of door and manage to advance in research?
Yeah, I guess this is quite a challenging topic, especially I think with how things advance quickly now with AI and also all the different software and stuff. So I think a lot more that at my time really mastering informatics skills and statistics skills and programming is something that is more and more needed in research. And I think most of the master program understood this well, and people can get good training, but also a lot now of free resources online to carry on being trained, because I think this is something that students, it will be very hard to avoid this and carry on in research, I think.
Yeah. So I will finish with a very last topic. So, I mean, you were telling me before we start Meet the PI that you were actually recording a documentary recently in South Africa. And I was wondering, like, how much you think that outreach has been crucial in the evolution of your career? How much it helped to get funding? How much it helped to make you recognized of the rest of the community?
Again, a good question. I don't know how much it helps, but I still think that I'm paid mainly by public money, and the public should be aware of what we're doing, and we often don't take enough the time to do it. So as soon as I'm contacted by a journalist or also invited like to schools and stuff, I try as much as possible to do this also, because I think it's part of our job. And then also when I have interesting papers coming out, I always reach like the communication office of the university and see if they want to do a press release. And I try to to play the game there. And then I still think it is something that people will still look at in your CV. And it's funny because from some of the colleagues, like if they see that I've been in the radio or stuff, they will tell me, "Oh, congrats on this," more than they will tell me on a paper.
Yeah, it's actually funny indeed.
Yeah.
Could I ask, how do you think we encourage the next generation of biologists and zoologists and entomologists? How do we encourage children to be enthused by the natural world?
Yeah, I think nature is amazing, and I think the problem is that we get so much more into a virtual world with kids just playing their video games and stuff. So I think that's where it's very important to try to do also outreach for children specifically. So when I joined the University of Lausanne with my postdoc Rachel Harrison, we designed a workshop for junior high school kids mainly, so like the 9 to 14 years old. So we have an open lab of the university where school groups can come, and so we designed one workshop on Homo sapiens, un singe comme les autres, monkey like the others. And so with this, we were also testing children. So we're doing stuff for our own research. But then it was also a lot telling them about the excitement of doing research, and also always during the open days of the university. Except this year, all the previous year, I always had a workshop, and there it's either schools or in the weekend the general public. So a lot of families coming and telling them about the field site. And we in South Africa, we try also to go regularly to schools around. And now with trying to change our reserve into something owned by the community and for more conservation there, the aim would really to renovate one of the old farmhouse and have it at an educational center, and also bring children from very different background to the reserve and show them the amazing things they have just right next door, because most of the South African children never experience this. So I think we have to try to promote opportunities as much as we can as researchers to show it to the young generation. I think also doing documentaries and things like this also really helps. So we had twice, for example, the BBC already coming on site and filming for some of their series, and hopefully through this we can also show how amazing wildlife is and what we can do as researchers.
Yeah, at the same time, I was about to say that, like you say, that now because we are more in contact with informatics, maybe we have less this contact with nature. But to be the lawyer of the devil here, like I have also the feeling that maybe like new technology is somehow part of the solution to bring, because like for instance, I have the feeling that with the democratization of YouTube and maybe sometimes we don't even realize that new generation are actually already focusing on nature, but just by watching videos that we do not expect they are watching. Like, for instance, like, I mean, I know that like my niece are watching sometimes video of animals on YouTube, and like you would expect that they are watching maybe a cartoon or something, but not at all. So like I have the thing that maybe also the technology can be part of the solution, of course not fully, but yeah, no, it was just to add this point to your
I think also technology is really useful for conservation and all the tracking that we can do, and like to enhance the welfare of animals, and still knowing what is happening with camera traps and tracking. So I think the technology is also really useful, and I'm not at all against it, as you will see.
I know. It was really more just for this thing of the kids, because indeed we could think that kids are less in contact with nature, but maybe somehow a bit still through the screen. It's still not good, but in terms of oxygen at least. I think we can end with our fire question session, if you are ready for that.
Okay, so I have to be fast.
I mean, like you can, yeah, like moderately fast, let's say. I mean, the first question is favorite model, but I think I can already like reduce, because I know where you will go. So I will say favorite primate.
Sorry, favorite
What
primate?
is your favorite primate?
The vervet monkey.
Okay. So, I mean, I guess I also have the answer for this one, but what is your favorite field site?
The Incahu Vervet project at Mawana, what I said.
What will be the favorite part about your daily PI routine?
When I'm in South Africa, waking up at 4 a.m. like I did last week, and just walking in the silence of the bush, looking at sunrise, and going towards the monkeys, and then looking at them waking up, and then looking what we should plan as experiment and stuff, but having this time with the team, just walking in nature to get to work together.
Yeah, that's
and maybe the sunset on the roof. Sunset on the roof with a little South African cider, discussing the experiment that we did during the day. This is also a very important debriefing time of the team.
Well, I think with your first answer, you will make some people jealous, but yeah, I think it's good. So one paper that inspired you recently?
Recently, yeah, I think I'm not sure about the name of the author. I think it's Huber in Geneva. He did all this automatic testing of behavior with a mouse lemur, if I remember well. And so it's like they can just move totally freely, and all the tasks are automatized, and really how to test cognition without any interference. And I know he's trying to have this set up in the wild, and I think this is really exciting things.
If you can actually post the paper on Discord, that would be amazing. Your most eureka moment?
So my most eureka moments was doing a field experiment with colored corn, and I had dispersing males that wasn't planned at all, that moved from one train color to the other one. And then they directly switched the color to adapt to their group. And I found it so stupid, because they had to wait hours to access that color. They knew the other one was edible. And so when first I thought it was stupid, but then I saw it again and again, and I was like, okay, there is really something happening there. And it was really surprising to find this conformity.
Okay. And the very last one, if there was one thing that you could change in academia, what would it be?
Promote more internal careers, and be more conciliant with like family balance lifestyle, more egalitarian, not this huge professorship position. This is more than a word, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. It's a great answer. Okay, so like we are done with this Meet the PI session. Thanks a lot, Erika, for the discussion. That was really nice. And anyway, we are meeting you in about 1 hour, 45 minutes, I think, for your plenary. So like we invite everyone to come and listen to your talk. Thank you, Erika.
See you later.
Thank you very much.
So everyone, just for you to, like, you understood that now we will have a break of 45 minutes. So we invite you to go grab a snack, a drink, maybe even eat a meal according to your time zone, and then to come back for the plenary of Erika. See you later.